Commander Samantha Reeves stood at the viewport of the United Earth Alliance ship Vanguard, watching as the massive space station grew larger against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. Her heart beat faster than she would admit to her crew. This moment would change human history forever. "Commander, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lieutenant John Mercer from his station. His voice was steady, but his fingers tapped nervously against the control panel. Samantha nodded. "Proceed as instructed, Lieutenant. Let's not keep the Galactic Council waiting." The Vanguard was humanity's finest vessel, built specifically for this mission after alien signals had been detected 3 years earlier. First contact had been made via transmission, and after months of careful communication, humans had been invited to meet the council that governed most of the known galaxy. Dr. Olivia Wright joined Samantha at the viewport. As the mission's xenobiologist, her eyes were wide with wonder. 12 different species in one governing body, she whispered. "Can you imagine what we'll learn from them?" "Let's hope they want to teach us," Samantha replied. "And that they like what they see in return." Christopher Daniels, the team's diplomat, straightened his uniform for the 10th time. "The council representatives have been polite in all communications, but there's something odd about their questions. They seem particularly interested in our biological traits and history." The Vanguard docked with a gentle bump. Samantha took a deep breath and addressed her team. "Remember your training. We represent not just our countries but our entire species today." The airlock door slid open, revealing a wide, brightly lit chamber. Waiting inside were beings more diverse than anything humans had imagined. Tall, willowy creatures with iridescent skin stood beside squat, six-limbed beings. Some floated in protective bubbles, while others appeared almost human except for unusual colors or features. A being stepped forward. It had blue-tinged skin and 4 arms, with large eyes that blinked vertically. "Welcome, humans of Earth," it said through a small translation device. "I am Zenith, first speaker of the Galactic Council. We have awaited your arrival with great interest." Samantha stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, first speaker. We are honored to represent Earth and humanity." As she spoke, she noticed something strange. Several of the aliens took small steps backward. Others made quick gestures with their limbs. The translators emitted soft whirring sounds as if working harder than expected. The diplomats led the human delegation through the station toward the council chambers. Dr. Wright whispered observations to her data recorder. "Notice how they maintain distance? At least 2 meters at all times. And the purple species, the Araxians, I believe, seem especially uncomfortable." Christopher nodded. "Their body language suggests caution, maybe even fear. But why? We're smaller than half the species here." The council chamber was a vast amphitheater, with seating for hundreds of representatives. The human delegation was given a special platform near the center. "Esteemed council members," began Zenith, "today marks a historic occasion. We welcome the representatives of Earth, the newest sentient species discovered in our galactic neighborhood." Various aliens took turns speaking about peace, cooperation, and the exchange of knowledge. When it was Christopher's turn, he presented Earth's history and achievements. As he spoke of human art, science, and exploration, the council members listened with apparent interest. But when he mentioned Earth's nations and how they had overcome centuries of conflict to achieve unity, a strange murmur ran through the chamber. Later, at the formal welcome banquet, Samantha noticed the servers avoiding direct contact with the humans. Food was placed at the edge of their table rather than handed to them directly. "They're treating us like we might bite," John muttered. Dr. Wright was deep in conversation with a council scientist, a slender being named Thaliv, with translucent skin through which complex organs could be seen pulsing. "Your evolutionary path is fascinating," Thaliv said. "You evolved from, what was the term? Hunters?" "Pursuit predators," Dr. Wright corrected. "Our ancestors chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. It shaped our physiology, our endurance, our cooling system through sweat, our forward-facing eyes for tracking." Thaliv's internal organs briefly changed color. "How interesting. Most council species evolved through cooperation or defensive adaptations. The concept of pursuing another being to consume it is unfamiliar. Across the room, Christopher was struggling to explain the concept of competitive sports to a group of fascinated aliens. So these activities simulate conflict? For entertainment? Asked one with feathery appendages. In a way, yes, they test physical abilities and strategic thinking without actual harm. Usually. The alien's feathers rippled in what Christopher assumed was confusion. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted the conversations. One of the server aliens had dropped a container. It apologized profusely and bent to clean up, accidentally striking Christopher's arm with a sharp edge of its exoskeleton. Blood welled from the small cut. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. The surrounding aliens gasped and moved away. The server froze in apparent horror. Christopher held up his hands. It's just a small cut. No harm done. But Samantha had already moved to his side, placing herself between Christopher and the server, her stance automatically shifting to a defensive position. John was beside her an instant later, hand hovering near his side where a weapon would normally be holstered. The alien's reaction to this movement was even more dramatic. Several made high-pitched sounds that the translators didn't convert. Others backed away so quickly they bumped into tables. Zenith hurried over, all four hands raised in a calming gesture. Please, no alarm is necessary. It was an accident. Samantha relaxed her posture, suddenly aware of how her instinctive reaction had affected the room. Of course, we know it was an accident. Dr. Wright pulled a small medical kit from her pocket and quickly treated Christopher's cut. She noticed the server watching with what seemed like amazement at how calmly Christopher accepted the treatment. Later, as the humans were escorted to their quarters, Zenith spoke quietly with Samantha. Commander, if I may, your species reacts with remarkable speed to perceived threats. Samantha nodded cautiously. Basic protective instincts. We're trained to respond quickly to potential dangers. Yes. Instincts. Zenith's vertical eyelids blinked rapidly. You should know that among council species, such rapid aggressive responses are rare. Most evolved with different defensive strategies, camouflage, protective shells, symbiotic relationships. You're saying we scared them? Samantha realized. Let us say they are adjusting their understanding of humans, Zenith replied carefully. Rest well, Commander. Tomorrow's discussions will be illuminating for all of us. As the human delegation prepared for sleep in their assigned quarters, Dr. Wright reviewed her notes. I think I understand now, she told the others. The missing piece in all our communications. They don't understand conflict the way we do because they didn't evolve through it. War, competition, predatory behavior, these aren't universal concepts. They're uniquely human. Samantha looked out at the stars, so different from Earth's night sky. So on our first day meeting the galaxy, we've discovered we're the scary ones. Not exactly what I expected. Scary, John said thoughtfully. Or just different. Either way, tomorrow's going to be interesting. Little did they know how profound an understatement that would prove to be. 2 weeks after their arrival, the human delegation had settled into their new embassy on the Galactic Council station. A large room had been converted into an Earth-style meeting space, with furniture built to human proportions. Commander Samantha, Reeves sat at the main table, reviewing reports from both Earth and their council liaisons. They've approved the first alien delegation to Earth, she told her team. 6 representatives from different council species will depart next week. Dr. Olivia Wright looked up from her data pad. That's excellent news, though I'm concerned about how they'll react to Earth. If they find our diplomatic reception alarming, imagine their response to everyday life. Christopher nodded, the small cut on his arm now fully healed. I've prepared extensive briefing materials for Earth's reception committee. Still, there's only so much we can explain about knives, vehicles, or contact sports without showing them. Lieutenant John Mercer entered the room, accompanied by a tall, slender alien with gray skin that shimmered slightly in the light. 4 black eyes blinked independently of each other. Commander, this is Calivax of the Norian Security Force, John said. We've been exchanging information about our different approaches to station security. Calivax made a flowing gesture, with its long arms. Your lieutenant has been most educational, though I confess much of your security philosophy is difficult to comprehend. Samantha smiled. In what way, specifically? You prepare extensively for unlikely threats. You maintain constant vigilance, even in safe environments. And your physical training. Calivax paused. Most council species develop technology to avoid physical confrontation entirely. John chuckled. Calivax was surprised when I showed him our morning exercise routine. Apparently, deliberately exhausting. Your body is not a common practice. Later that day, Dr. Wright met with Zelorn, the Council's chief biological researcher. The furry, six-limbed alien had set up a laboratory for their joint research project, comparing human and alien physiologies. These readings cannot be accurate, Zelorn said, examining the results of their latest tests. Your reaction speed exceeds our measurement parameters. Dr. Wright looked at the data. That's normal for humans. Our nervous system evolved for quick responses, necessary when hunting or avoiding being hunted. And this pain tolerance test? Zelorn's fur rippled, and what Dr. Wright had learned was an expression of concern. Most sentient species would find such stimuli unbearable. Pain is information for us, Dr. Wright explained. Humans can function despite significant discomfort if necessary. Zelorn made notes with 3 of his limbs simultaneously. In most council species, such pain would trigger immediate shutdown of all non-essential functions. We evolved to avoid danger, not endure it. Across the station, Christopher was meeting with the Council's historical archivists. The floating, jellyfish-like beings hovered around a display showing images from Earth's history. These structures, one archivist gestured toward pictures of ancient fortifications, were built specifically to repel other humans? Yes, Christopher explained. For most of our history, different human groups competed for resources and territory. Through deliberate conflict, with the intent to harm others of your own species? The archivist's translucent body pulsed with blue light. War was common throughout human history, Christopher said carefully. It's only in recent centuries that we've developed more peaceful methods of resolving differences. The archivist's bodies flickered with colors the translation devices identified as expressions of deep distress. We have no equivalent concept in our records from any council species, the lead archivist admitted. The deliberate organization of beings for the purpose of harming others is... There are no translation terms. Christopher tried another approach. Perhaps if I explain how humans eventually moved beyond warfare toward cooperation. But the archivists were still processing the earlier information, their bodies now glowing with a soft purple light that indicated intense study and catalog activity. Meanwhile, in the station's training facility, John had agreed to demonstrate basic self-defense techniques for Calivax and several other security officers. A small crowd of various alien species had gathered to watch. This is a simple restraint hold, John explained, showing the movement slowly. It allows you to control an aggressive individual without causing harm. Calivax volunteered to play the role of an attacker. As John demonstrated the hold moving quickly but with minimal force, gasps spread through the watching crowd. Even though Calivax was unharmed, the concept of one being physically restraining another seemed shocking to them. Your ability to predict and counter movement is remarkable, Calivax said when they finished. But in 200 cycles of service, I have never physically touched another being in such a manner. How do you handle security threats? John asked, genuinely curious. Containment fields, sedative atmospheres, isolation chambers. Calivax gestured to various technological devices around the training room. Direct physical intervention is considered primitive. John was about to respond when his communication device signaled. It was Samantha. Lieutenant, I need you back at the embassy. We've received concerning news from the Earth delegation. Back at the human embassy, Samantha shared the report with her team. The alien delegation touring Earth had experienced several alarming incidents. They visited a culinary school in Paris, she explained. The sight of kitchen knives and cooking flames apparently triggered panic responses in 2 delegates. Another had to be treated for shock after visiting a natural history museum with predator exhibits. Christopher winced. We should have anticipated this better. What's ordinary to us can appear threatening to species with different evolutionary backgrounds. It gets more complicated, Samantha continued. The Council Science Division has requested extensive access to human biological and historical data. Dr. Wright, your research partner Zelorn sent this request directly. Dr. Wright reviewed the document. This goes far beyond our agreed research parameters. They want detailed information on human aggression responses, territorial behaviors, and combat capabilities. This reads more like a threat assessment than scientific exchange. John's expression darkened. Do you think they see us as dangerous? I think they're trying to understand us, Samantha replied, and what they're learning doesn't fit into their existing categories. Later that evening, in a secure chamber deep within the station, a special council committee met in private. 12 representatives, 1 from each major species, gathered around a holographic display showing human physiological data. The evidence is conclusive, Zelorn stated, his fur now a dull gray color indicating severe concern. Humans are a predator species. Their evolutionary path, physical capabilities, and social structures all derive from hunt-based development. Are they a threat to the Council? Asked a crystalline being whose hard surfaces refracted the room's light. Their current technology poses no immediate danger, replied another representative, but their development rate is unprecedented, and their capacity for strategic violence is concerning. They organize their entire society around competition, added another. Their games simulate conflict. Their history revolves around warfare. Even their scientific progress accelerated during periods of organized violence. First speaker Zenith raised all 4 hands for silence. We must proceed with caution. Humanity has shown no hostility toward the Council. They seek peaceful relations. As did the Kralax initially, countered the crystalline being. Before they attacked the outer colonies. Zenith's vertical eyelids closed briefly. A containment protocol may be warranted, but nothing more severe at this time. We will continue diplomatic relations while gathering more information. The committee members indicated agreement in their various ways. None noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the room. Its recording function accidentally activated during routine service. Back in the human embassy, as her team prepared for sleep, Samantha stood at the viewport looking out at the vast station and the stars beyond. Something wrong, Commander? Dr. Wright asked, joining her. Just thinking about first impressions, Samantha replied. We came here hoping to be welcomed as equals. Instead, I can't shake the feeling we're being studied like specimens. Or worse, assessed as a potential threat. Aren't we doing the same to them? Dr. Wright suggested. Learning their weaknesses and strengths? The difference is, we're genuinely curious. I'm not sure they are. I think they're afraid. Neither woman noticed the small maintenance drone drifting past their window, its data banks containing information that would soon cause a diplomatic crisis throughout the entire Galactic Council. 6 months had passed since the first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council. The United Earth Alliance ship Vanguard remained docked at the massive space station, serving as both transport and home base for the human diplomatic team. Relations had settled into an uneasy rhythm, with both sides carefully navigating their differences. Commander Samantha Reeves was in the middle of a video call with Earth officials when the emergency alert sounded. We'll continue this later, she told the officials before cutting the connection. She rushed to the bridge where Lieutenant John Mercer was already analyzing incoming data. Distress signal from an Elindri research vessel, John reported. They're under attack approximately 3 hours from our position at maximum speed. Attack? Samantha's eyebrows rose. The Council told us armed conflict was virtually non-existent in their space. Dr. Olivia Wright entered the bridge, followed by Christopher Daniels. What's happening? We've received a distress call, Samantha explained. Prepare for departure. John, notify the Council of our intentions to respond. John's fingers moved across the communication panel. Commander, the Council is ordering us to stand down. They're dispatching their own peacekeeping force. How long until they arrive at the Alindri ship? John checked the data. At least 7 hours. Samantha's jaw tightened. The Alindri might not have 7 hours. Set course for the distress signal. The Vanguard detached from the station and accelerated to maximum speed. Council communications continued to demand they return. But Samantha ordered the messages acknowledged without changing course. The Council doesn't understand, she told her team as they prepared for possible rescue operations. Where we come from, when someone calls for help, you don't wait for permission. 3 hours later, the Vanguard dropped out of faster than light, travel near a small, damaged ship drifting against the backdrop of an asteroid field. Nearby, a larger vessel with a strange angular design was attempting to breach the research ship's hull. Life signs? Samantha asked. Multiple on both ships, John confirmed. The attacker's vessel doesn't match any Council species design in our database. Open a channel to the attacking ship. After several attempts with no response, Samantha made her decision. They've made their intentions clear. Prepare boarding teams. We'll evacuate the Alindri researchers. The Council would never approve, but Samantha couldn't wait while innocent beings were harmed. Her crew felt the same. Within minutes, 2 shuttlecraft launched from the Vanguard, approaching the damaged research vessel from opposite sides. John led one team, while Samantha commanded the other. As they docked with the Alindri ship, they could hear sounds of fighting inside. Breaching in 3, 2, 1, John's voice came through the comm system. Both teams entered the ship simultaneously. The scene inside was chaos. Several Alindri, with their distinctive blue skin and 4 arms, were huddled behind makeshift barriers. Attacking them were beings unlike any the humans had seen before. Tall, muscular creatures with thick gray skin and 3 yellow eyes arranged in a triangle. Pattern. Kralax, gasped one of the Alindri upon seeing the humans. Beware. They kill without negotiation. One of the attackers turned toward Samantha's team and fired a weapon. Energy bolts struck the wall beside her, melting the metal. Without hesitation, she signaled her team to take defensive positions. Non-lethal takedowns if possible, she ordered. Priority is protecting the Alindri. The human security personnel moved with a speed and coordination that shocked both the Alindri and their attackers. While Council species focused on technological solutions, humans had perfected the art of close-quarters combat over thousands of years. John's team flanked the attackers, using stun weapons and tactical maneuvers to disrupt their formation. When one of the Kralax knocked his weapon away, John seamlessly switched to hand-to-hand combat, using the alien's size and momentum against it. Samantha led her team in a direct approach, creating a protective barrier between the attackers and the injured Alindri. When her stun weapon failed against the Kralax's thick hide, she improvised using a damaged piece of equipment as a shield while coordinating her team's movements. Move the civilians to the shuttles, she ordered 2 of her officers. We'll cover your retreat. The Alindri watched in shock as the humans engaged their attackers. Violence was so rare in Council space that most had never witnessed direct combat. The sight of humans willingly placing themselves in danger to protect others was both terrifying and fascinating. Within 15 minutes, the human teams had secured the ship. 4 Kralax lay unconscious, 2 more were contained, and the rest had retreated to their vessel, which quickly detached and fled the area. All clear, John reported. 3 minor injuries on our side, several wounded Alindri but no fatalities. As the humans provided medical aid to the injured researchers, Council security ships finally arrived. Their cameras recorded everything. Humans bandaging wounds, carrying injured Alindri, securing unconscious attackers. The footage was transmitted live back to the Council station. Later, aboard the Vanguard as they returned to the station, an Alindri scientist named Talara approached Samantha. You saved our lives, Talara said. All 4 hands clasped in what humans had learned was a gesture of deep respect. But I must ask, how can your kind switch so easily to violence? Samantha considered her answer carefully. We don't see it as switching to violence. We see it as doing whatever is necessary to protect others. Your bodies move so quickly, so decisively, Talara continued, as if you had practiced such actions many times. We have, Samantha admitted. Part of human training includes preparing for worst-case scenarios. Fascinating. Talara's large eyes blinked rapidly. And terrifying. The council told us humans were different, but seeing it firsthand, the Alindri paused. I am grateful, truly. But I also understand now why some council members fear your species. When they arrived back at the station, the reception was mixed. A crowd of council citizens had gathered, some holding symbols of gratitude, others keeping a noticeable distance. The human crew exited their ship to find First Speaker Zenith waiting, with a formal delegation. Commander Reeves, Zenith's tone was carefully neutral. The council requests your immediate presence for an emergency session. The council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 12 major species were present, along with many minor ones. As footage of the humans in combat played, on large displays reactions ranged from murmurs of appreciation to visible signs of distress. Humans disobeyed direct orders, one council member stated. They interfered in a situation they did not understand. They saved 19 Alindri lives, countered another, when our own peacekeepers would have arrived too late. Christopher stepped forward as the human diplomatic representative. We apologize for disregarding council protocol. However, where humans come from, immediate response to distress calls is standard procedure. The issue is not your help, said a crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. The issue is how that help was provided. Your species engaged in direct physical combat without hesitation. What you witnessed, Christopher explained, was humans showing restraint. We used minimal force necessary to protect the Alindri. A silence fell over the chamber as the council members processed this statement. The idea that humans had been holding back, that what they witnessed was considered restrained behavior, clearly disturbed many present. First Speaker Zenith finally broke the silence. The council acknowledges the Alindri were saved by human intervention. However, Commander Reeves, your actions violated our protocols and revealed capabilities your species had not disclosed. Samantha stood tall beside Christopher. With respect, First Speaker, we did disclose our nature from the beginning. Perhaps the difference is that you've now seen what our words actually mean. As the session concluded, the humans were simultaneously issued a formal censure for disobeying orders and a commendation for saving the Alindri crew. The contradiction perfectly symbolized the council's confusion about how to handle humanity. What none of them yet realized was that footage of humans in action was already spreading across the galaxy. And on distant worlds, beyond council space, other eyes were watching with very different reactions. News of the Kralax attack spread quickly through council space. Within days, reports arrived of similar incidents at remote outposts and research stations. The peaceful species of the Galactic Council found themselves facing something they had not encountered in generations, an aggressive enemy intent on conquest. Commander Samantha Reeves sat in the human embassy reviewing the latest reports with her team. The mood was serious as they studied the pattern of attacks. The Kralax are testing defenses, John said, pointing to a map of the recent incidents. They strike isolated targets, retreat before reinforcements arrive, then attack somewhere else. Classic raiding tactics. Christopher nodded. The council has called an emergency session for tomorrow. They're requesting our presence. They spent months afraid of us, Dr. Wright observed. Now they might need us. The council chamber was packed when the human delegation arrived. Representatives from all species were present, many showing signs of stress in their various biological ways. The Araxian's skin had turned a pale green, while the crystalline Polari vibrated at an audible frequency. First Speaker Zenith raised all four hands for silence. Esteemed representatives, we face an unprecedented crisis. The species calling themselves the Kralax have launched 27 attacks on council facilities. 42 citizens have been killed. Many more injured. Murmurs of distress filled the chamber. For most council species, even a single violent death was shocking. Our peacekeeping forces are overwhelmed, Zenith continued. They lack the training and instincts for this type of conflict. The first speaker turned toward the human delegation. Which brings us to our guests. Humans have demonstrated capabilities that may be valuable in our current situation. Samantha stood. The United Earth Alliance stands ready to assist the Council in any way we can. Not all Council members appeared pleased by this offer. A representative of the Vosian species rose. We cannot invite predators to protect us from predators. The humans might be as dangerous as the Kralax. Yet when the Elindri ship was attacked, humans risked their lives to save Council citizens, countered a blue-skinned Elindri. I was there. I saw their actions with my own eyes. The debate continued for hours. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The Council would formally request Earth's assistance in protecting key locations, while a joint committee would oversee all human military activities in Council space. 2 weeks later, 5 Earth military vessels arrived at the Council station. They were small compared to Council ships but designed specifically for defense and combat. Earth governments had agreed to send a limited force, enough to show support without appearing threatening. Admiral Gerald Hayes, a veteran of Earth's last regional conflict, led the human military delegation. His weathered face remained calm as he addressed the Council. My forces will establish defensive positions at the locations you've identified as vulnerable, he explained. Additionally, we request permission to train Council security personnel in basic defense tactics. This proposal caused another round of debate, but eventually, the training program was approved. Lieutenant John Mercer was assigned to lead the HFY first training session with volunteers from various Council species. The training facility had been modified to accommodate different physiologies. John stood before 30 alien volunteers, none of whom had ever engaged in physical combat. Today we'll start with the basics, John began. How to recognize a threatening situation, how to create distance between yourself and danger, and simple, defensive movements. A Polari representative raised a crystalline appendage. Why not simply use containment fields or neural disruptors? Technology can fail, John explained patiently. These techniques are your backup when other options aren't available. The training proceeded slowly. Most species struggled with concepts humans considered instinctual. The idea of establishing a protective perimeter seemed foreign to beings who had evolved with different survival strategies. They don't understand territory the way we do, John told Samantha after the session. They've never needed to defend space or resources through physical means. Dr. Wright had been conducting her own research with Council scientists. She joined a meeting with Samantha, John, and Christopher to share her findings. I've been studying the evolutionary differences between humans and Council species, she explained. Most intelligent species here evolved from prey animals or cooperative omnivores. Their survival strategy was hiding, fleeing, or group protection. While humans evolved as pursuit predators, Samantha concluded. Exactly. It gave us not just physical advantages but mental ones. Strategic thinking, pattern recognition, the ability to compartmentalize violence, what soldiers call the warrior mindset. These traits are uniquely human among known intelligent species. Christopher looked troubled. No wonder they find us frightening. Everything that makes us effective protectors also makes us potential threats. Meanwhile, the Kralax attacks were growing bolder. A mining colony on the edge of Council space sent a distress signal reporting multiple enemy ships approaching. The closest human vessel was the UEA Defender, where Lieutenant John Mercer had been temporarily assigned to lead a mixed species response team. Captain Laura Donahue of the Defender made the decision to respond immediately. Lieutenant Mercer, take your team to evacuate essential personnel. We'll provide cover from orbit. John's team included 6 humans and 4 Council security officers who had shown the most promise in training. As their shuttle approached the mining colony, communications suddenly went silent. Jamming signal, reported the human communications officer. We're cut off from the Defender. The Council security officers looked to John with increasing anxiety. One, a Norian named Kalavax, spoke for the group. What do we do without orders? Or information? Kalavax asked, 4 black eyes blinking rapidly. John didn't hesitate. We continue the mission. Our priority is protecting the colonists. As their shuttle landed, they could see 3 Krelak ships surrounding the main colony structure. Smoke rose from damaged buildings, and scattered bodies showed the attackers had already begun their assault. Standard evacuation protocol won't work, John told his team. We need to adapt. He quickly assigned positions, breaking his team into smaller units with each human paired with a council officer. They would approach from multiple directions, gather survivors, and retreat to designated extraction points. But this isn't what we practiced, protested one of the council officers. Combat isn't about following scripts, John explained. It's about adapting to the situation and making decisions that protect the most lives. The operation that followed shocked the council officers. They watched as humans made split-second decisions, improvised weapons from mining equipment, and moved with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic. John led from the front, calmly directing his team while engaging Krelak's warriors twice his size. When communications were restored 3 hours later, Captain Donahue was able to contact the surface. What she heard amazed her. John's team had evacuated all 213 surviving colonists while suffering only minor injuries. Back on the council station, Admiral Hayes received the report with grim satisfaction. He immediately shared it with the council leadership. This is what humans do, he told them. We protect. First Speaker Zenith studied the report. Lieutenant Mercer violated several protocols. He made unilateral decisions without authorization. Those decisions saved lives, Hayes countered. Yes, Zenith admitted. They did. As the meeting concluded, an urgent message arrived from Earth's long-range scout vessels. They had located the main Krelak's fleet, over 300 ships gathering for what could only be a major offensive against a Council core world. In an emergency session, human military advisors presented the only viable option: a preemptive strike against the Krelak staging area. We must attack before they're fully assembled, Admiral Hayes urged. Once they launch, we won't have the forces to stop them. The concept of a preemptive attack horrified many council representatives. Several physically left the chamber rather than discuss such an action. What you propose goes against every principle of our civilization, First Speaker Zenith said quietly, to initiate violence even against those who threaten us. Sometimes, Samantha Reeves said, protection requires action, not just reaction. As the debate continued into the night, the Council faced its most difficult decision in centuries, and humanity prepared to demonstrate why predators make the most determined protectors. The Galactic Council remained in session for 3 full days debating the human proposal for a preemptive strike against the Krelaks. Never in their history had they authorized an offensive action. Their entire civilization was built on principles of peace and non-aggression. On the 4th day, First Speaker Zenith addressed the exhausted representatives. We have no official consensus, therefore I cannot authorize military action in the Council's name. Admiral Hayes and Commander Samantha Reeves exchanged disappointed glances. Without Council support, Earth's small fleet could not legally operate in Council space against the Krelaks, but Zenith wasn't finished. However, the Council will temporarily look away from certain regions near the Krelak staging area. What happens in those regions over the next 72 hours will not be officially observed. It was as close to approval as they would get. As the Council members filed out, several approached the human delegation privately, offering technical support, star charts, and intelligence data, all unofficially, of course. Back on the UEA flagship Sentinel, Admiral Hayes gathered the commanders of all 5 human vessels. We have tacit approval but no official support. This mission is completely voluntary. No one hesitated. Captain Laura Donahue of the Defender spoke for them all. The Krelaks will attack innocent worlds if we don't stop them. We're going. Commander. Reeves was assigned to lead the operation from the Vanguard. She had the most experience with both Council space and the Krelaks. Lieutenant John Mercer would coordinate the mixed species teams who had volunteered despite their government's official neutrality. We're outnumbered 50-1, Samantha told her assembled officers. But we have advantages the Krelaks don't expect. The human fleet departed quietly, slipping away from the Council station without ceremony. Their plan was simple but bold. They would not attack the main Kralax fleet directly. That would be suicide. Instead, they would strike at the supply, lines, command structures and communication relays the enemy needed to coordinate their invasion. As they approached the staging area, sensors detected the massive Kralax fleet. Over 300 warships gathered near a dead star, preparing for their assault on Council worlds. All ships, maintain communication blackout, Samantha ordered. Execute approach pattern Delta. The 5 human vessels separated, each heading toward a different target. The Vanguard, under Samantha's command, would lead the most critical strike against the Kralax command ship. For thousands of years, humans had developed the art of warfare. Now facing an enemy that outnumbered them dramatically, they relied on tactics that went back to Earth's ancient history: deception, misdirection, and precise application of force. The Defender deployed small, unmanned drones that mimicked the signature of Council trading vessels, drawing Kralax patrols away from their intended targets. The Explorer released specialized electronic warfare packages that confused enemy sensors and communications. When the attack began, the Kralax were caught completely by surprise. They had expected to face the Council's defensive technology, slow, predictable, and designed to contain rather than destroy. Instead, they encountered human combat tactics evolved through centuries of conflict. Aboard the Vanguard, Samantha directed the battle with calm precision. Squadron 2, execute flanking maneuver. Squadron 3, prepare boarding parties. John led one of the boarding teams as they docked with a Kralax communication hub. The alien defenders were fierce, but lacked the tactical flexibility of the human-led forces. They fought according to rigid patterns, unable to adapt when humans changed their approach mid-battle. They've never faced an enemy that thinks like us, John realized as his team secured the hub. They don't understand unpredictability as a strategy. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human vessels danced around the larger Kralax ships, avoiding direct confrontation while striking at vulnerable systems. The mixed species teams performed better than anyone had expected, with Council volunteers providing technical expertise while humans handled combat decisions. 4 hours into the battle, the tide began to turn. The Kralax fleet, confused by failing communications and conflicting orders, broke formation. Their command structure, accustomed to overwhelming force, couldn't adapt to human guerrilla tactics. Their flagship is attempting to retreat, reported the Vanguard sensor officer. They're gathering their remaining forces for a jump to faster-than-light speed. Samantha made a quick decision. All vessels, focus fire on their jump engines. We can't let them escape to threaten other worlds. The human fleet converged on the massive Kralax flagship, laying down precise fire that disabled its engines without destroying the vessel. As the crippled ship drifted, Samantha opened a communication channel. Kralax Command Vessel, this is Commander Samantha Reeves of the United Earth Alliance. Your fleet is scattered, your supply lines cut. Surrender now. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then a harsh voice replied in accented Galactic standard. We do not surrender, the strong conquer. This is the way of nature. Christopher Daniels, who had joined the mission as diplomatic advisor, leaned toward the communication panel. With respect, that is not the only way of nature. The truly strong know when to fight and when to stop fighting. Surrender now, and we guarantee fair treatment according to Council law. Another long silence followed. Then, unexpectedly, the Kralax responded. Your species fights like no other we have encountered. You understand the path of strength. We will speak with you, human, but not with the weak Council races. Christopher exchanged glances with Samantha, who nodded approval. Agreed. Prepare to receive our diplomatic team. The negotiations were tense but productive. The Kralax, it turned out, respected strength above all else. They had attacked the Council because they viewed its peaceful species as weak and therefore natural targets. But humans had demonstrated a kind of strength the Kralax understood. 2 days later, the human fleet returned to the Council station escorting the Kralax flagship. News of their victory had already spread throughout Council space. As they docked, crowds of various species gathered to witness the historic moment. First Speaker Zenith greeted them in the main docking bay, all forearms raised in the traditional gesture of highest respect. "The Council owes humanity a debt we cannot repay. You protected billions of lives at risk of your own." Admiral Hayes nodded respectfully. "We did what any human would do when friends are threatened." In the Grand Council chamber, a formal ceremony was held. The Kralax representatives, still proud but subdued, agreed to a peace treaty negotiated by Christopher Daniels. Council representatives watched in amazement as the formerly aggressive species accepted terms from the humans they had initially sought to conquer. Afterward, First Speaker Zenith addressed the full council. "Today marks a profound change in our understanding of the galaxy. For generations, we believed aggression and predatory traits were evolutionary dead ends, incompatible with advanced civilization." The first speaker gestured toward the human delegation. "Humanity has shown us otherwise. Their unique evolutionary path gave them not just the capacity for violence, but the wisdom to know when to use it and when to show mercy." A new classification was created in the council records that day. Humans were designated a guardian species, the first and only such designation in council history. As Samantha and her crew prepared to return to their embassy quarters, Dr. Wright shared a final observation with her team. Throughout human history, people feared predators, wolves, lions, bears, but eventually some of those same predators became protectors. Wolves became dogs, guarding the very beings who once feared them. Samantha smiled. "And now we've become the galaxy's guard dogs." News of humanity's victory spread to the furthest reaches of known space. On peaceful worlds, children looked up with wonder rather than fear when human ships appeared in their skies. Across the stars, would-be raiders and pirates changed course when they detected human vessels. The day humanity became feared was also the day the galaxy became safer for peaceful species everywhere. Fear had transformed into something else, something closer to respect, gratitude, and perhaps even admiration.